Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping straight into a really fascinating case study today, fresh off the Android developers blog. If you're in the trenches building digital products, you know that keeping users actually coming back is pretty much the ultimate priority. So we're going to look at exactly how a mindfulness app called Gratitude completely transformed its user engagement. And the kicker? They didn't do it by overhauling their core product. They did it by mastering a piece of digital real estate that every single one of us looks at dozens of times a day, the Android home screen.
25%. Just think about that for a second. Imagine boosting your app's user retention by a massive 25%, all without changing a single core feature. That is exactly what the Gratitude app pulled off. By building this exceptional, totally modernized widget experience, they managed to keep a quarter more of their widget-using audience actively engaged. So, how on earth did they do it?
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to hit the power of Gratitude, look at their technical debt challenge, how they navigated migrating to Jetpack Glance, their strategy for boosting widget discoverability, and wrap it all up with the real results and takeaways.
Section 1. The Power of Gratitude. Mental health meets daily habits.
Before we get into the code, we really need to set the stakes here. Gratitude isn't just some standard productivity tool. It's an app built for mental health, where consistency is absolutely everything. Just look at the sheer scale of this platform. Over 6 million downloads, 150,000 five-star ratings, and a literal 100 million journal entries logged. The whole premise relies on encouraging micro-daily journaling and affirmations. When you have a user base this massive relying on you for daily mental wellness, meeting them right in their everyday moments without the friction of opening a full app session is absolutely crucial.
Section 2. The Technical Debt Challenge, the XML Trap. Getting to that home screen came with a massive roadblock. The Gratitude team's design system was evolving beautifully toward the modern Material 3 standard, but their legacy widgets? Total nightmare of technical debt. We're talking brittle workarounds in legacy XML and remote views. Every little visual tweak meant manual overhead that dragged developer velocity to a crawl. Contrast that slow, painful process with Jetpack Glance, a modern, declarative UI framework built for fast iteration.
Section 3. Migrating to Jetpack Glance, the declarative solution for developer velocity.
So, the crucial point is how they actually escaped this technical debt. They didn't just dive in and start coding. They followed a really clean three-step workflow. First, they studied the Widgets on Android design page and canonical layouts to figure out best practices for tight spaces. Second, they actually migrated to the Jetpack Glance declarative code. And third, they rigorously tested across various OEM launchers, which, as we all know, is completely essential in the Android ecosystem. This organized approach meant they went from planning to shipping in less than a month.
What's really interesting here is how ditching that restrictive XML just opened the floodgates. Not only did it give them a much easier to read and maintain codebase, significantly reducing developer effort, but it empowered them to do so much more for the user. We're talking dynamic colors, flexible resizing, and expanded configuration options. Now, the widget naturally harmonizes with literally any home screen setup a user might have.
Developer Divij Gupta completely hit the nail on the head regarding this shift. He noted, the compose-based approach feels much more modern, flexible. It allows us to express widget layouts more naturally, reuse familiar compose components, and iterate on UI changes much faster. It just goes to show how modern tooling removes the friction, letting developers focus on the actual user experience instead of fighting the framework.
Now, quick aside for the technical folks tuning in, because this is a fantastic insider secret. The team used generated widget previews to give users personalized previews, but testing those can be agonizingly slow because the system rate limits them to save battery. Well, you can bypass that entirely during development. Just run this adb shell command to set the reset interval to 0. It's an absolute game changer for saving time while building widgets.
50%. This declarative framework quite literally saved the developers roughly half of their development time. Imagine taking all those hours previously wasted wrestling with clunky UI code and redirecting them into core app features and big-picture product strategy.
Section 4. Boosting widget discoverability, the UX strategy.
Let's move to how this all builds up, because creating a gorgeous widget is really only half the battle. Users actually have to know it exists. To solve this, Gratitude used in-app widget pinning. Instead of hoping users stumble through the clunky system widget picker, they used a bottom sheet to prompt users to install the widget right at a contextually relevant moment inside the app, capturing them exactly when they're most engaged.
But a huge architectural warning here.
Definitely take note of this. When you are migrating from remote views to Jetpack Glance, changing your receiver paths will literally delete existing widgets right off your users' home screens. To prevent a mass wipeout, your new Glance app widget receiver absolutely must use the exact same class name and package as your previous app widget provider in the Android manifest.
Now, if you're in a spot where you absolutely cannot keep the same class name, Gratitude actually had to deal with this, and they engineered a brilliantly clever fallback. First, they used stored user flags to quietly identify who their existing widget users were. Then, they triggered a specific prompt inviting those exact users to restore their modernized widgets. It's a super elegant way to recover from an otherwise destructive backend change.
Section 5. Real results and takeaways, where developer experience translates to user experience.
So let's look at the payoff. The 1-2 punch of building a great widget quickly, combined with that smart in-app pinning strategy, worked wonders. A full 10% of their total daily active users adopted the widgets. Grabbing a tenth of your total daily audience right on their home screen, that is incredible for sustained engagement.
To put that into perspective, that 10% adoption directly generated around 1,000 new weekly journal entries strictly through the widgets. By just fixing their technical UI debt and making the widget easier to find, they literally engineered 1,000 more moments of mindfulness for their users every single week.
This brilliantly illustrates the ultimate goal here. As Divij put it, widgets helped us make the app more present in users' daily routines, making it easier for users to stay consistent with their mindfulness practices. It proves that when done right, a widget isn't just a UI shortcut. It's an actual catalyst for long-term habit formation.
Breaking it all down into cause and effect, adopting Jetpack Glance saved them 50% in development time. Combining that with in-app pinning drove a 10% adoption rate among daily active users. And the grand finale, modernizing that widget experience drove a staggering 25% increase in retention for those users. That is an investment that pays massive dividends.
So, I'll leave you with this to chew on. Are your app's widgets an afterthought, or could they be your greatest retention tool? The Gratitude app proved that truly mastering the home screen can completely change how users interact with your product day in and day out. Might be time to take a hard look at your own product roadmap and ask how you can meet your users right where they already are. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.